and I'm the president of Partnership for Awareness. It is with great pride and excitement that we gather here today to recognize and celebrate the achievements of 7 outstanding seniors from San Marino High School. Partnership for Awareness is proud to award these remarkable individuals scholarships to pursue careers in fields that are aligned with our mission. The mission of Partnership for Awareness is to increase awareness of critical issues challenging the health and well-being of San Marino youth, to identify and address these issues in cooperative partnership with parents, students, educators, law enforcement, and community groups, and to provide a forum to educate the San Marino community with knowledge and skills to navigate these important issues successfully. We fulfill this mission by planning and sponsoring events and programs which bring experts together with our San Marino community so that our youth and parents may learn more about substance use disorder, tobacco, mental health, and other health and safety issues related to intersection of their identities, including race, ethnicity, biological sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic circumstance, national origin, immigration status, ability and disability, and physical characteristics. PfA also sponsors Red Ribbon Week and for the past 2 years has awarded school site grants to support social and emotional learning curriculum at Carver and Valentine Elementary Schools and grants to support the wellness centers at Huntington Middle School and San Marino High School. And now, for the first time in our organization's history, we fulfill our mission by supporting graduating San Marino High School seniors with scholarships. These 7 students have shown exceptional dedication and passion in their pursuit of careers that align with this mission. They have demonstrated deep understanding of the challenges facing our youth and have shown a strong commitment to making a positive impact in their chosen fields. Several of our scholarship recipients will be pursuing careers in psychology, helping to address mental health challenges, and working to improve the well-being and resilience of our community's young people. We also have students who will be pursuing careers in criminal justice, nursing, and medicine, all fields that play a critical role in promoting health and well-being within our community. These students have demonstrated leadership, empathy, and a genuine passion for making a difference in the lives of others. They embody the values of Partnership for Awareness and are truly deserving of the recognition. As we celebrate their achievements today, we also look forward to the impact that they will undoubtedly make in their future careers as they continue to work towards the betterment of our community. Let us congratulate these 7 seniors on their well-deserved scholarships and wish them all the success in their future endeavors. With that, I would like to invite PfA Scholarship Committee members, Claudia Bowles and Jenny Rousseau, who will introduce each recipient.
Hello. Hope, please come on up so we can celebrate you. Hope intends to pursue her educational and career path in child psychology because of her compassion for children and her fascination with the human mind. She's also been coping with a personal health challenge this past year, a new diagnosis of diabetes type 1, that has shaped a specific interest in helping youth and their families who are faced with chronic medical conditions. Aside from her academic interests, Hope has been a dedicated member of the San Marino High School theater program and recently portrayed the cold-hearted lead Roxy Hart in the spring musical, Chicago. But we believe Hope's heart is nothing but benevolent. When not at school, you may find Hope in the kitchen preparing meals for the homeless or babysitting, which has only reinforced her natural draw to nurture children. Hope plans to attend UCLA in the fall.
Cal State LA.
Oh, Cal State LA. Oh, I'm so sorry. Cal State LA. Yay.
Maybe move this way a little bit so the projector's not moving. Wait, Jenny, Claudia. Claudia, you should come too. Or do pictures after? Or?
Yeah, we'll do
let's
yeah,
do
it's
that.
okay.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Our next recipient is Giordano Camera. Okay. So, Gio had a pandemic experience, perhaps more magnified and isolating than most. He's endured multi-systemic medical issues since birth, which has led to additional time in remote learning. We're so grateful that he was able to join us here today in person. His extensive health history sometimes brings up tough emotions, yet also invites unique perspective on life and impressive resilience. And his future in the field of psychology is nothing but bright. Gio's growing interest in human behavior pushed him to enroll in AP Psychology, and Gio has a passion for people, serving in many volunteer roles, including coaching summer basketball camps prior to the pandemic. He's even managed to maintain his participation in basketball by assisting SMHS coach Papadopoulos with creative off-the-court responsibilities during the pandemic. Gio's story and sense of commitment are nothing less than inspirational, and Gio plans to attend the University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA, in the fall. And he did enlighten me that the campus of UCLA is shaped like a heart. I didn't know that, or as far as he sees it, we'd probably say like a Rorschach type of, so he sees it as a heart, so I thought that was pretty beautiful. So thank you.
Okay, next up we have Mackenzie Anton. Mackenzie has a solid work ethic and an impressive job history, which will serve her well in her future nursing career. You may even find her behind the counter at Starbucks preparing your next caramel frappuccino. That's if she's not busy babysitting, tutoring, or cheerleading for Titan varsity athletes, including her twin brother Trevor. Mackenzie's extensive consumer connections have pointed her toward her ongoing desire to engage in a helping capacity, specifically in the area of maternal and child health. Mackenzie plans to attend Northern Arizona University in the fall. Congratulations.
Our next recipient is Alexis De La Torre. So Alexis has profound interest and personal experience in the potential impact of a multiracial or multi-ethnic identity, as well as strong awareness of cultural diversity. She aspires to study psychology and possibly even enter the field of criminal justice or law enforcement like her maternal grandfather. Alexis has served as captain of the San Marino High School varsity cheer squad. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And has found tremendous gratification coaching and teaching cheer to local elementary school students. Alexis plans to attend Cal State University San Marcos in the fall. Thank you. Oh, yes, I am next. Okay, next recipient is Gianna. All right. Oh. Okay. Gianna, maybe I shouldn't do this one. All right, I'll try. Okay. Gianna plans to pursue a career in medicine. You might call her a brainiac, not only because of her intellect, but because of her intrigue with every aspect of the human brain, from its anatomy to various neurological processes. She's also a Renaissance gal with her extensive sports involvement and human service. Gianna has helped bring compassion, kindness, cultural awareness to countless clubs on campus, to the basketball court, and to the greater community. Her involvement in the medical field has ranged from health advocacy efforts involving youth tobacco reduction to direct patient care support. She even sends school supplies to the underprivileged in her family's native country, Lebanon. Gianna intends to study neuroscience at the University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA in the fall. So.
Taline, you're next. Taline wants to lend a helping hand by pursuing a career in healthcare. She plans to launch this admirable goal by studying biology on a pre-medicine track. Taline has actually already made her medical mark in the San Marino community by sharing impressionable yet hopeful youth substance abuse recovery stories during Red Ribbon Week. As one of the valued members and leaders of the student-led nonprofit group, the International Youth Tobacco Control. She's fearlessly taken this advocacy to a global level, making an impact from here all the way to Kenya. When not buried in the books, you'll find Taline scoring on the soccer field or volunteering at Huntington Hospital. Taline plans to attend the University of California at Los Angeles in the fall. Congratulations. And we have Zoe Sutliff. Please come on up. Zoe has firsthand experience supporting loved ones who have struggled with significant mental health crises. She's determined to pursue her academic degrees in the field of psychology. Zoe also recognizes the importance of this profession after courageously adapting to and overcoming some rather daunting personal struggles of her own during the pandemic. She's already identified many future aspirations, such as volunteering for a mental health crisis hotline while pursuing her long-term career goals. Aside from her behavioral health interests, Zoe is intrigued by the performing arts and has appeared in many student productions at San Marino High School, including the spring musical, Chicago. Zoe will attend the Pasadena City College Honors Program in the fall with a plan to transfer to University of California School. Congratulations.
And with that, it's time to shift gears and we are going to begin the speaker series part of tonight's evening. So scholarship recipients, of course, we would love for you to stay, but I know you're all seniors, right? So, and it's end of April senior year. So families, you're welcome to stay, but at this time, I'd like to invite our featured speakers to come forward. So we have San Marino High School Wellness Counselor Tanya Alhendi and Huntington Middle School Wellness Counselor Peijin Chen. So if you could please come forward. And tonight they're going to be facilitating a conversation about safety and what does that mean in our community? Emotional safety, mental safety, physical safety. And we also have special guests, San Marino Unified School District Superintendent Dr. Linda De La Torre, as well, yes. As well as San Marino Police Department Chief John Incontro. Yeah. So before the conversation starts, though, we would like to invite our recipients forward for a photograph with all of our speakers, as well as Jenny and Claudia. If you could come up for a whole group photo. Okay, over here? Okay. All right.
Okay, sir.
I plugged it in, but I don't see it. Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No.
Okay.
It can go.
Oh, it's on, okay. So I guess I could talk a little bit about the genesis of tonight. I reached out to Tanya shortly after the school shooting in Nashville. I'm an educator myself, so I am a middle school science teacher. And so I work with young people every day. And I had some students come to school really upset after this latest incident because it keeps happening again and again and again. And so I wanted, I love to touch base with Tanya and Paige in. How are the students at San Marino High School, how are the students at Huntington Middle School feeling when news in the world can feel so terrible? Not just school shootings, but the climate catastrophe. I know that my students, and I worry for my children, worrying about the future of our world. And so how do we create in our families a sense of emotional safety, mental safety, in a time that's so trying? We've endured, years of pandemic, and it takes a village. And we're so fortunate to live in San Marino, where we know our neighbors. I see the Nesnases who live 2 blocks away, and I texted Sue to come flock our house yesterday because it's my son's birthday, and it happened within 30 minutes. That's the kind of community that we live in, and I'm so grateful every day to live in San Marino because we have folks like these who are looking out for our children, who are really experts at what they do. And their knowledge is, I just am amazed by what happens at the Wellness Center. And I want every family in San Marino to know. So I reached out and I said, how can we help get the message out about what you do? Because it's so, so important. And especially coming out of the pandemic with the mental health challenges that our students have faced. And also, to be honest, San Marino schools have a reputation as being an academic pressure cooker. And that also can take a toll on emotional safety for students. So I wanted to hear from the experts. And because we live in San Marino, the experts came. And so I'm so grateful to our panelists of 4. And so Tanya and Paige, maybe start us off. How can we, in our families, start these conversations to create a sense of emotional safety, mental safety, as well as you will hear from the chief and Dr. De La Torre about their teamwork to keep our children physically safe at school. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Toby. So I'm Tanya Hendy, and I'm the wellness counselor over at the high school, but we also service all of the schools in San Marino because we want to make sure that we provide support to not only the students at every level, but then also the parents. And then I'll also have
Patient Chen. I am also one of the counselors based at the high school and providing services this year mostly primarily to middle school students.
So we are very privileged to come and speak. We love to have the opportunity to connect with parents and families because, as Toby had shared, this is such a difficult time. So I prepared, I think it's all of 5 slides. And we can click through, but it's really about how do we have a dialogue about different ways to emotionally and physically support our kids when they're with us. Because when they are not with you, the school system is the parent. And so we're acting in local parentis to make sure that they're safe. So I know that Dr. De La Torre and the chief are going to talk about all of those physical safety changes that we've made to our campuses to ensure that safety. And then within those walls, then it turns to myself and Peijen and also all of our other counselors and staff of how do we create that environment of emotional safety? How do we be attuned to those children's needs when they are in our care? And then how do we support parents who are attuned when they're at home with you? So that's really the conversation, the dialogue tonight. I highly encourage if you have a question, raise your hand, share it, because oftentimes what happens if that's something that you're thinking, so is the parent sitting next to you, or maybe that's something that your neighbor is thinking at home that you can later have a conversation about. So some of the things, do you have a book? I'll do it. Okay. Oh, one of the things just to note is I put my favorite quote on that front page, that there are 2 ways of spreading light, to be the candle or the mirror that reflects it. That quote for me has really messaged my work for the last 20 years, and it has followed me since my very first day teaching in 2001. So every time I present, I always want to share that because it is so meaningful, because we are all doing that. We are either the candle for someone or we are the mirror, and we help them see who they are. So I include that in every presentation, so that was it's on the front, and it's important. So the Titan Wellness Center, just a little bit in case you're not familiar, I do come across parents who were not sure of, what is the Titan Wellness Center? And so we always want to make sure that we're messaging, we're sharing all of our goals to connect that emotional safety piece. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I wanted just to make sure that there was a proper introduction. So one of the things, the Titan Wellness Center at the high school, it's really a place for students to decompress. So one of the things that Toby had highlighted is that San Marino is a pressure cooker for that academic success. And we just saw 7 students who excel. And they excel in all of those lists of extracurriculars, their volunteer work, their ambitions, and that is why San Marino is an amazing place. But with that, we know that some days it takes a lot more work to put all that together emotionally than other days. So the Titan Wellness Center is definitely a place for students to come in and decompress when they need it. So sometimes we have students who come in and they want to talk with one of our counselors, like Ms. Chen, and we have 5 other counselors who are available to talk, and sometimes they don't. They want to sit, they want to catch up on their academic notes, or they just kind of sit and just kind of stare off into space and kind of reset for themselves. But we want to create that environment. So when we think of the Titan Wellness Center, it is a place, but then it's also a service. So I have parent support. So one of the things that we're really trying to get going off the ground, and I invite all of you to attend, is a parent connection. We want to start creating a space where parents can come and talk about what are some of the challenges that you're having? What are some of the common things that are going on among parents, and how can we support you with your kids? So that's something that we offer when we provide that individual support to students. That also comes with a lot of parent support, in addition to those parent connection meetings that we're having monthly at the middle school as well as at the high school. And then the other thing, as I said, is that therapy services. And so we offer mental health services to all the students within San Marino. We will connect you and try and find a resource that utilizes your insurance if that's something that's appropriate or comfortable for you. But we want to make sure that we provide that in-house. So through our therapy services, they are offered through an MFT trainee primarily. But what that oftentimes includes is a lot of that parent one-on-one support, that connection, collaboration with the counselor, connection, collaboration with the teacher, any special education services. So all of those things to support the whole child, because that is ultimately our goal as a school district. And then you click to the next. So that is the briefest. Oh, and then here's another, basically what I just said. That we're at all of the school sites. We use those MFT trainees, and we're so fortunate that we have wonderful relationships with local universities. And we have those MFT trainees that are with us for 12 to 18 months to provide those services to families.
And Tanya, for folks who don't know, what does MFT stand for?
Oh,
So MFT stands for Marriage and Family Therapist.
Yeah.
And MFT trainee is someone who is currently going through the program to get their graduate degree to become licensed. And part of the licensing process is to do an internship at a site. And you can do internships at, there's so many agencies, I don't know, there's so many different options. But the school site is one.
And the school site is the best site.
It is the best site.
For sure. It's the best site because we have the opportunity to work with the whole family. And so if you were to ever seek those therapy services in the community from an agency, chances are your child will be working with a trainee or an associate, someone who is acquiring those hours to be able to be independently licensed. So we offer those individual therapy services. For some of our clients, we have family services, and parents will actually come in weekly, depending on what is going on and how they want support with their child. We do offer some small groups. We've been doing that at the middle school. If we can build capacity, we would love to extend that. But one of the things that we really want to focus on in the middle school is those mindfulness practices, because we think that that is essential. It builds new neurological pathways in the brain, and it teaches kids how to regulate from the inside to help manage their stress levels. And then, as I mentioned, that parent connection piece. So as part of our talk tonight, this is basically what the conversation is about, is, what impacts our emotional safety. And when we think of a school setting and some of the things that Toby had mentioned, these are the different items that are on the forefront. So the first is media. It's like, how do we get our information? Where is it coming from? And where media comes from for us as adults is different for kids. It is very different as far as how do we gather our information and what of that information is true and what of that is not true. So it's about recognizing what is that media influence. So I am a mother of 2 kids, and I think about, how do I contain the information that they hear about? I don't talk to them about school shootings. They know about school shootings, and my oldest is 10. I don't talk to them about different things that are happening in the community and shootings on the sidewalk, but they know. And so it's, how do we have those conversations? How do we get a sense of what are our kids seeing? And it's really a developmental question. And what are our kids' sources of media? So I'm wondering from, the parents who are here just in reflecting, like, what are our known sources of media that that your kids are maybe accessing that is something that you might not necessarily access? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
I would just say that being older, social media is totally separate from I grew up, at least, and just that balance of, we're all on social media to a degree, but kids are in a different way, and not how to regulate it, but just how that kind of influences, and it's just different than it was 20, 30 years ago.
It is. It's just different. And it's kind of like kids are speaking in a totally different language than we are when it comes to things like social media. So I have 0 social media. I don't have an Instagram. I don't do I do nothing. I don't get notifications on my phone. I'm hoping that my children will, kind of learn from that example. But I'm one of those that I know nothing about those items. But when I have a student that comes into the wellness center, that's where I learn. I ask them, what are the different ways that you are accessing media? What are the different ways that you are looking for tools to manage stress that is overwhelming you? What are the different ways that you are learning about depression, learning about anxiety, learning about how to navigate your intimate relationships as you're forming boyfriend, girlfriend, and whatever that would look like? I have to ask the student, where are you getting that information, and are you having those conversations at home? So this is one of those things that in the day-to-day, we're going from job to dinner to this to that we don't really think about, how do we start having that conversation, and when do I ask? And so as these things pop up, it's like taking inventory and just having those casual conversations. Well, what are some of the different things, child of mine, are you accessing? And then sometimes when you get that reluctance from your child to maybe share, because developmentally everything is fine, what are your friends looking at? Do your friends talk about media? What are those different sources? And so it's finding different ways to have those conversations. And I'm hoping that as we kind of talk about some of these items, that it's something that goes, I just didn't really think to have that conversation because we're so busy. Because that's really like the goal, is how do we connect and have these conversations? Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, so in my first career, I was a print journalist. And so I've always talked to Zoe about relying on print media because everything else follows print is what I taught her. So New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, established print sources. You can go from there, but always anchor in legitimate media. So anyway, that's kind of, I've noticed when she talks about stories, she adopted that approach, which hopefully she keeps moving forward.
Right.
Because it gets a little hinky once you start.
It gets
You
way
know,
hanky.
It gets way hinky.
She's graduate.
18.
Yeah,
She's,
yeah, she's a graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's true. And how do you know what is legitimate and what isn't? I saw another,
In our family, I'm the person who always has the NPR on when I get ready in the morning in the car. But when my boys have heard stories as we're listening to NPR on the radio, that can be an entry point to a conversation about things happening in the world. And because it's not me telling them, it's starting with their curiosity. But now they're old enough that they just want it, or one of them likes to change to music.
right. Like at my house, it's Kids Bop.
I think another entry point and where I differ from Tanya is I have every form of social media because I have a middle school or elementary school kid. I joined it so that I can have a better idea of what they're being exposed to. Having those conversations, I send them memes. They send things back to me. I see a smile back there. And by engaging them in that way, I get a whole other source of what's important to them, what's valuable to them, what are the kids doing these days. And I think that, there's no right way to do it, right? It's like what works for your family, what kind of temperament, what are your kids like? There's just so many different ways to start that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
I was just going to say, just speaking about some of the classes and current events and how they're introduced to the students and which classes the current events are discussed. We know in terms of the curriculum, like where students can actually have those interactive, factual-based conversations
About current events?
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we have a student in the back who'd like to respond. San Marino High School.
We're all talking about social media and all that. And I'd like to kind of give, I think, a good first-hand point of view on world events and that sort of thing. Like, you have apps like, TikTok and Instagram. As a person who uses them daily, I can say that it can be a little overwhelming sometimes because not only do you see one world event or two, you get to see all of them all at once, kind of given to you at any different perspective. And it can be a little overwhelming to be able to try to take in all these different types of events and kind of be able to understand which ones are true, which ones are right. And with all these different perspectives, you also get ideas, and all those kind of different things can be just a lot to take in.
Right. And the response that I would give you for where can students get accurate information is in their social science courses. Our social science teachers are expert in talking about current events, historical events, trying to get kids to think about the context and how it impacts what's happening in the world today. So those conversations are happening at every single one of our schools on the daily. And that's really helpful. Our teachers also are trained to be neutral and objective, so they're not taking a position on one side of an issue or another. They're allowing the kids to think critically about these issues and form their own opinions, which I think is very, very important to be a consumer of information as we move forward. And our teachers are also cautioning the students on their sources, right? And they do learn what a reliable source is as opposed to something that they see on a TikTok video. And since we're talking about social media, we have a new development, and our Board of Education and Administration takes the safety of students very, very seriously. And tonight you have the full gamut, right? I mean, we really can't have a campus that is physically safe without making sure that we're taking care of the mental health and well-being of all of our students. These two issues intersect. And we're very, very grateful for all the work that Tanya has done at the high school and Hayden at the middle school, making our campuses even safer than they have been in the past. Social media has sort of really thrust us into an area of the world that is not so new anymore, but can be a slippery slope. There are positive impacts and there are negative impacts. But as a school district, our Board of Education and our administration is very concerned about the fact that social media outlets really haven't done enough to keep our kids safe from harmful content. And there's a variety of different things that can be very destructive and harmful and cause mental health issues, bullying that takes place on our campuses, on or off campuses, that school districts have to address and local law enforcement gets involved in as well. So there is currently a class action lawsuit against various social media outlets. And we made the decision, our Board of Education made the decision last night to join that class action lawsuit. So we're taking a position on that issue. Social media can be very positive in many ways if it's used right, but our youth can't always make good decisions at very young ages when they're exposed to social media and some of the things that they see and they hear, and they're vaping as an example. There was another class action lawsuit on vaping. There were vaping ads through social media that were targeting our youth, and that's just destructive and harmful. So I just wanted to let the community know that the board is taking that matter very seriously, and all matters of safety for our students very seriously. And they're not just talking about it, they're actually doing something about it. So I think that's very impactful and powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's really helpful. And I love what the students shared in the back, because I've actually had those conversations with kids about how overwhelming it is, all of the messaging. Because it is not one story, it's 5,000 stories. And for some, there can be some addictive component to that social media and looking for something. It's like a dopamine hit to the brain. And so then it's kind of like it fills boredom, it's a distraction, it's a tool that's used to escape uncomfortable feelings. And so when we talk about like social media in itself, we could do a 3-hour discussion of different ways to have knowledge of, support kids, recognize signs of addiction, and all of those things. So that's a really important thing for you to just kind of assess. And as Peijen had shared, how it looks different in her family, and assess how it looks different in your family. And if you think that there is a concern about that or different ways to intervene with the constant bombardment of information, then reach out to us, because we would really like to support you with that. I had a student last year who's since graduated, and that was one of the things that was really overwhelming, that it was such a distraction. And what the tool that the student, bless their heart, is they turned to their phone to grade. And because part of it, what they recognize is they were attracted to like the colors and the things and the excitement. So they made their phone grayscale because it was really boring. Because they did recognize that addiction. It was the constant looking, checking, looking, checking. And it was so disruptive to when they were trying to do other things that was more important. And it was this need to just check, did this person reply? Did they comment? Did they do something? Did they acknowledge? Did I miss something? Because it's so quick within the communications of kids and how fast their thumbs move, that if you didn't check in that second, it's 30 different responses and you missed the boat. So that in itself, and how are they communicating about the media, or how is different news articles shared, Is it a credible source? Is it a blog? Is it, some guy doing an overlay on a TikTok thing that's gone around a bazillion times and it's deep fake or whatever it's called? So it's really about how do we have these conversations and get a sense of what is your child's habits surrounding that, and maybe even take some inventory of what are your habits to get a sense.
I was actually going to comment on that because I think we can't underestimate the power of what we do to model, whether it's with media intake, having opinions, having open minds, being unbiased, etc., thinking critically. But with social media, I know plenty of people who are completely hooked to their phones.
Oh, yeah.
So how can you teach someone to not be that way if that's not what you're modeling?
Right.
So it's important to make that connection as well.
Right. Yeah, take stock. Like,
Yeah.
what is your own behavior around it? Was there another hand?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest problems I see is this sense of needing to respond immediately, the urgency, and that's, there's texting and so forth.
Right.
How do you find that sense of urgency? And I see that in the younger people, maybe even some adults. And then people feel like, oh, you have to respond to a text right away. Maybe I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I leave text for a long time. But I want to listen to your thoughts on, how you train, I mean, how do you deal with this issue? Because you got it. Somebody's talking to you, you got to respond.
Right. And that is such an important thing because what happens is there's that quick response without thinking, and then there's often regret of how they responded. And you can't undo it. And you can't prevent the copy and the share it around. So it's how do you sit with discomfort and that you don't have to immediately feed the anxiety. And so that's where it's really like assessing, and that would be a great thing that, maybe as we move into like doing the climate surveys, if we really look at like the middle school and the high schools, to survey, anonymous survey, and get a sense of what are kids' habits. How many seconds can they wait? What do they get out of it? And so it's really identifying for each individual that discomfort that arises, that I have to respond or I have to wait in the check. And I think it does change depending on the student. I think it's a lot to do with modeling, but a lot of it is that fear of missing out because things do happen so fast that if you looked away, you missed it. And it's how do we foster that ability to have the separate pieces of our time separated out. One of the things that I have hanging in my office that I direct students to is the Healthy Mind Platter. That talks about focus time, play time, in time, rest time. And it has these different things. And one of the things that I explain to kids is if your play time is mixed in with your focus time, and focus time would be homework, right? Then in the end of the night, your homework's not that great. It took you twice as long than it needed to. And you also don't feel like you had playtime either. But throughout both, you were watching a quick video, responding to a text, listening to music. So it's like you didn't have a solid playtime that you felt rejuvenating and rewarding. And you also didn't have solid focus time. And then it just leads to exhaustion. And so we've kind of come from this place, and I feel like I've done a lot of personal work in this area where it was like multitask. You're, revered by if you could juggle 5,000 balls in the air. And I see it with the kids, when really it's what we've learned about our brains and a healthy way to function is to not juggle all of the balls in the air and focus on one ball at a time. But then we can add in the conversation of COVID and how that has changed how our brains work with all of the screen time. So these are conversations to have, and there's not a quick, one-size-fits-all solution, which is a bummer, because that'd be really easy. But it's like really taking that inventory of what are the habits and do they feel good? Because one of the things that I always ask kids is like, well, what do you get out of it? Right? And how long does that feeling last? Are there any consequences that go with that choice? So this is an ongoing, ever-evolving dialogue as more things, come up on the radar. Because TikTok served a purpose. We transitioned from a long video on YouTube to a short video on TikTok.
To YouTube Shorts.
That's right? And so then it's gonna shift because how can we connect your brain to get you addicted, to feed you what you want to watch? Yes, fine student in the back.
I was gonna say with YouTube and I think someone earlier brought up the print in the news.
Uh-huh.
The way information consumed has changed, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
It's started to change that it's quicker and it's faster, and that can also relate to responding.
Mhm.
Respond. A lot of younger people, I find myself with those habits. I feel the need to respond very quickly, and I imagine that also relates to the fact that the way information consumed is on the exact same path,
Right.
where it's getting shorter and shorter, and suddenly an issue such as like Ukraine and Russian war, something that I feel probably needs a lot of time to be able to properly understand the situation is condensed into 3 minutes. You know, that's all you get in a day. You're supposed
Right.
to just be able to understand the situation.
Yeah.
And so how does that affect your feeling of emotional safety?
For me, I think personally, I find it to be that it's hard to truly understand topics. And like the Ukraine and Russian war, I find that to be where if I can't truly understand what's going on, it makes it hard for me to feel safe.
Right. Yeah.
And so you make exponentially, if we have young people who are going to become voters and things like that, they're coming in with a superficial understanding, and they have to vote to make choices or, weigh in on policies or what have you, and they don't have the foundation. So what does that do for us as a country?
So
Sorry,
hopefully,
bigger picture.
yeah. So
Right.
hopefully, we're providing that foundation through education, because we can't really control what information is being provided to kids outside of our classrooms, but we can control the content and the curriculum to a certain extent that is delivered within the classroom. And so that's where I think education becomes even more important and critical as a foundation for kids to be good consumers of information and to be able to think critically and really do research, to learn on their own, and to research and dig a little deeper than the 3-minute TikTok video on a certain subject. And I think that that's something that we do really well in San Marino. And we're proud of that. So that is fundamental. And I see social media as a layer on top of that kind of just clouds a lot. But we have to go back to the fundamentals and the basics, which we're continuing to provide to our students.
And it's like, how do we have the perfect combination of creating enough time to be able to invest to get enough information? So back in my day, if you didn't read the literature, you got the Cliff Notes, right? Who remembers Cliff Notes? Oh yeah, right? But if you think about Cliff Notes in today, it has to be, 2 pages? Whereas our Cliff Note might have been like half the size of the book.
Right.
And so it's like, how do we create enough space for our kids to spend time on their emotional safety and not have to consume everything in a short, quick snippet because they just don't have that much time available? So that's another piece. Oh, another fine student.
I think I wanted to add that I think it's important to have a control, how should I put it, a system where you can do stuff that you can enjoy outside of your phone. Whereas in your phone you can get like all these tons of information. It's also important to have other stuff outside of your phone that can also bring you that joy, bring you feel that need of retaining information, such as, I don't know, for myself, in my case, sometimes instead of going on my phone, I like to go outside and just do work. Like, oh my God, my dad actually taught me that just doing the little stuff around the house can help a lot in the long run, which is very valuable for me. But I think it's very important to have that little, as I said, like control between what you do outside of your phone and how you like react to the information, and also what you do in your phone, because there's also a lot of valuable information that you can find in the little piece of metal that we have in our pockets. Like for example, 30 minutes ago I didn't know how to tie a tie. Look at me.
Very helpful.
It's very important to have to know when to stop getting that information from your phone and when to practice in other activities. I think that's what I really wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and it's having those compartmentalized different spaces. So just like one of the obvious ones is don't study in your bed, right? Because what's going to happen? Next thing you know, you're snoozing or something else. You know, it's having that designated study space, going outside, the sunlight, the vitamin D, the vitamin K, everything that your body takes away from that is so good for the mental health and engaging in those little activities. So maybe that's something in future, and I think we can continue the discussions at, you know, the school level as to how we can provide more conversations and information on how our kids are consuming this media topic, because it's not going to go away. It's going to keep evolving, and how does it impact the work that we're doing in the schools and what's happening in the homes. So I think that that's a good, you know, if we had a good kind of discussion going, and we can figure out how we can keep that dialogue.
Regarding media and what Toby brought up earlier about, and maybe Chief has something to say about this too, but regarding safety and school shootings and school tragedies, my concern is that at least I am becoming a little bit desensitized because of the high volume of it, and not really putting it in perspective in terms of, you know, the level of threat or the level of danger it is or is not. You know, looking at percentages, it's, you know, actually not all that common in the grand scheme of things, but at the same time it is seeming increasingly common, and it's very exposed in the media. But I feel like now there is a sort of another shooting, and then just sort of a pause and then move on, because it's just so prevalent. It's becoming prevalent or publicized so widely.
And Claudia, if I can jump on that, there was an incident near Carver yesterday, which I don't know that everyone knows about that, but I saw a post from a Carver teacher, or several Carver teachers, about how upset their students were. And so it affects the littles too. So maybe Dr. De La Torre and Chief, talk us through that.
So what happened yesterday, and Chief knows the details of that. All I know is that we got a phone call from SMPD to lock Carver School down, which the principal did very promptly. And it was executed flawlessly. There was not a single thing that went wrong. And our teachers are getting more practiced at talking kids through those situations. Law enforcement is a partner to the school district when it comes to school safety. And we are exceedingly grateful for San Marino Police Department leadership. Chief Incontro has been amazing since he came to San Marino in working with our school district on threat assessment, active shooter training, really taking a more active role with the school district in keeping our campuses safe. So the incident that occurred yesterday, it's been, you know, in print. There were some articles, I guess, that were published about it. It was handled very quickly, and the matter was contained by the PD off of school grounds. It did not happen on any of our campuses. It was San Gabriel and Huntington, right, Chief? And, you know, our police officers, highly trained, responded quickly, contained the situation, took the gentleman into custody, and we were able to lift the lockdown, I would say very quickly, considering all things and what really went down. And it is a very scary situation, and we recognize that. So we're training our teachers to be able to have, you know, conversations with our students. Our principals are very responsive. I know that Principal Caldwell sent something out to the parents, you know, talking them through that. When things, though, happen off of school grounds, we're going to allow Chief Incontro and his law enforcement officers to handle the messaging of that, because that's really their jurisdiction. So we're going to talk about what we know, which is we were told by PD to lock down. And then Chief Incontro, if he feels it is appropriate, will talk about, you know, the details of the incident. So I just want to make that clear, because sometimes the expectation is that we're going to speak on behalf of SMPD, but we will not speak on behalf of the department that is Chief Incontro's job and area of expertise. So while we work together very closely in partnership, we're also, you know, having to make sure that, you know, we're not stepping over each other. But in San Marino, and Chief can talk about this a little bit, their response time is less than 2 minutes. They can be anywhere in the city in less than 2 minutes, which is unheard of elsewhere. And so that is an incredible response time, and we're very grateful for that. And I think that helps to get things contained very quickly in our community. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. I don't like sitting behind the podium. So Yesterday's incident was very simple. It was a traffic collision. The driver was responsible for the traffic collision, was armed. He was in the middle of a mental health, drug-induced crisis, gave up, and we took him into custody. A couple things to think about. One, some folks who live here believe nothing ever happens here. Lots of stuff happens here. You just don't hear about it. And so being mindful of what to do for your safety. The discussion on social media, the discussion on sources of information. One thing we didn't mention is, what are we doing at home? I have a child who is a sophomore. She's a wonderful, wonderful young lady. And I had an older son who's now at PCC. I'm on my second go around as a dad, and first go around with 3 grandsons. So I'm living this constantly, living the issue of safety in our schools, living the issue of safety in our world. I was fortunate. I had 2 parents who believed in candor and discussion and honesty and speaking about what's important. It's not just social media. There's other apps. Discord, for one. You go online. Sometimes you're playing with your friends. It's cool. Lots of different people join your group. Where are they from? What are they talking about? Your child may go in there, slam the door, shut the door, leave it ajar, but they're in there for a couple hours or more. And what's going on? I was flipping through TikTok, and I rarely look at TikTok. And within a matter of seconds, I saw videos dealing with prostitution, dealing with violence against women, dealing with criminal conduct, dealing with hiking, and finding a great place to go. I mean, young man's talking about, right there, talking about what else do I do? Well, I came upon a place that was talking about great hikes in LA. So there was beauty and ugliness.
That's true.
I don't get to drive my daughter to school anymore. We have her friend who can drive, so don't worry about that. But I would take that 10, 15 minutes. Hey, let's talk about something at dinner, or just a few minutes in between here while she's trying to do her homework, or he's trying to do his. So what did you see today? What are you looking at? Did you hear about this? What do you think? Did you see a story on TikTok? Did you see a story on Instagram? Here's the Wall Street Journal. Read about that incident here. I don't have 20 minutes to read an article. Sad. But those are the things. And I've said this since I got here. Your kids don't have a constitutional right to privacy in your own home. They have a constitutional right for privacy, to assembly, and all those other things when it comes to outside and what your rules are. And rules are good. And the support that the school has is phenomenal. And it's a resource for you, because we're going to come across stuff we don't know about. You know, I'm still trying to figure out what FOMO is. And but work together in collaboration with the school, with the resource center. But get involved and ask. There's always a few minutes when you find a story on NPR. I play NPR all the time, and I get screamed at because I got 3-year-olds in the car going, no, and they change the station. But we end up talking about a certain story. We talk about what's going on in the Supreme Court. We talk about guns. We talk about abortion. We talk about all those things because it's important. And I may only get 30 seconds, and they may respond in 10-second spurts. But we're interacting, we're doing it differently than just TikTok or something else. So those are some of the things that we think about. And when we talk, we find out if there's other issues going on. What were you talking about? Oh, you've got a friend from the Middle East. You have a friend from Africa on your Discord group. What are they talking about? What do they think about the United States? You as a person from California. They may say, hey, you're great, you're wonderful. But you know what? That's a great chance to learn a little bit more about someone from Africa or someone from the Middle East and look at it as a learning experience. So I'll stop here and go ahead.
Hearing the chief talk about that, it really, you think about emotional safety, and he's created a space where his kids feel emotionally safe to have those conversations, right? So when we go, let's say, you know, a middle school or high school, or someone goes home and is like, hey mom, you know, I was thinking about birth control. What is your reaction? Is it what? like why? What do you mean? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Or is it like, oh, tell me more? So how do we create that as parents? How do we create that emotional safety where they feel like they can come to you as the main source? So you can explain those really difficult topics. And they're not getting it from, you know, their friend who might not know, who's probably getting their information from, you know, some sort of social media. Yeah.
I'd like to add that I think it's very valuable what you just said. It's very important to have a good communication with your kid. Personally, my dad is oftentimes out of the country. I'm from Mexico, and we have a house in Mexico that he constantly takes care of. But that communication of how are you, how's your day, what did you do in school, how are you feeling today, never stops. Even if it's through my phone, we do video calls every so often, every time we can. I get my brother to say, hey, come here, say hi to dad. And we talk about everyday stuff. Sometimes the call can last 20 minutes, sometimes the call can last 3 hours. Because we constantly talk about stuff that I'm genuinely curious about and topics that I may not understand. And the very important part is that he keeps a very open mind about it, and he tells me this raw, professional, I would say, opinion on any topic that I talk about. He tells me, hey, if you are interested in this. Recently, I talked about a situation that happened in my life and the ways that I wanted to move on with my life, how I wanted to do things differently and stuff like that. He told me, hey, read this book. It's called The 4 Agreements. I started reading it, and it talked about being impeccable with your words, not making assumptions, always having a clear mind, having an open mind, and doing your best at absolutely everything that you do. And even though I'm very new to these agreements, on the book it talks about how it's important to have an agreement to respect those agreements. So you have to have that agreement with yourself every day, saying, okay, yesterday I may not have respected those agreements, but today I'm going to try a little better. I'm going to try again. And also that idea of keep trying and trying and trying until you get it right. So it's very important to talk with your kids about essentially how they're feeling, the way that their day goes every day. It's very valuable for me when someone asks, hey, how's your day going? It's very, very valuable for me. So most of all, it's just that communication between child and parent. I think many parents struggle a little bit to connect with their kids. So just to remind everyone to have a better reinforcement of that communication, that relationship they have with their kids, because it really can make a lot of improvements.
What you just said is very impactful and very true, and it is universally true in terms of how we keep our campuses safe as well. It's not just up to Chief Incontro and his department to keep everybody safe. It's not just his responsibility. It's not just the school district's responsibility. It's not just mental health providers. It's not just up to them. It's up to every single one of us in this room as a community to work together to make sure that we are being proactive so we don't end up having to be reactive. And what does that mean? That means, as you so aptly stated, keeping the conversations open at home and really checking in with our kids to see how they're feeling, what they're thinking about, how well they're doing or not doing. And then if they're not doing well, providing interventions, targeted interventions, wrap them in supports, keep them as safe as you can. But you won't be able to do that if you don't know what's going on with them. And in terms of the number of school shootings that continue to occur in the United States, it's alarming. And we are painfully aware of what needs to be done. And we have to be vigilant, and not just those of us sitting up here again, but the entire community. And so one of our goals is to reach out to our community and really start to preach that we need to work together. Because if you think about all of these school shootings, the bad guy isn't coming from 2 states away. The bad guy is coming from within that community, and they have some connection to that school district. And so we all need to think about that and just be proactive. We need to be a close-knit community. We're so blessed in San Marino, as you said, Toby, because we know our neighbors, right? You guys know your neighbors. You know all the people who work for the school district. So if you see someone who maybe doesn't belong, right, you don't automatically make assumptions, but you can, go up to them and say, "Hi, can I help you? Who are you here to see?" That's what we're training people to do within the district, right? So that we're not just being passive about things that are out of place. We also have, just to kind of give you a sense of where we're at as a school district, we have multidisciplinary threat assessment teams that meet on a regular basis. Dr. Michael Lynn is now our CBO and in charge of threat assessment and doing a lot of work on safety and security for our campuses. And so he meets with a forensic psychologist, Harvard trained, Dr. Belize, who can provide assessments. We have counselors, school psychologists, teachers, administrators, all coming together, including law enforcement that has been trained as a threat assessment professional as well, to look at these situations and determine, whether or not it is a threat. And we deal with it appropriately at that point. So we're doing things proactively from within to prevent a tragedy from happening before it occurs. So we're not just going to wait until something bad happens and then hope for the best. And I have to say that we've been doing this for many years now. At the beginning of this year, we had Special Agent, I think his name is Cunio, from the FBI come out and provide training to all of our employees on active shooter and threat assessment. We've done that with Dr. Belize as well. He was here on August 8th, I believe it was. Every year we provide our employees with training they have to complete within the first 6 weeks of school on suicide prevention. What are the signs? How can we identify a kid that's in trouble, and how can we help? And as Chief Incontro says, if you see something, say something. And so we're training everyone to do that. And that has to apply to our community members as well. Our parents, our siblings, neighbors, our business leaders in the community. It's so important that we all work together to do the best job that we can to keep each other safe. Whether it's, on campus, off campus, on the weekends, a big event that the city has. We just really need to be vigilant. And unfortunately, it is what it is, right? Nobody wants to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it because it's disturbing to think about it. But if we don't think about it, we can't plan for it and we can't be proactive. So we're really pushing forward on that and trying to do the best job that we can. But we're working together to really focus on mental health issues, to make sure that we have the right protections on our campuses, that every adult on campus is there for a reason and belongs. We have a Raptor system now where we swipe your ID or driver's license, and if you're on Megan's list, you're not going to get access to the campus, right? And so we're doing things now that we have never done before, We're working on fencing. We had the Joint Regional Intelligence Center come out and do a school facilities vulnerability assessment. So they literally had a team of professionals walk the campus with law enforcement and with Dr. Lynn to write up a report on areas that we need to strengthen that could be viewed as physical vulnerabilities if a bad guy wants to access campus. So we are actively looking at ways that we can approach that and address that. We have security cameras on all of our campuses. We're currently piloting technology that involves artificial intelligence. It can detect a weapon before that weapon gets onto campus and notifies law enforcement within a matter of minutes. It's incredible. What artificial intelligence can do now is, that's also another positive and negative, sort of a double-edged sword in some ways, but that's a whole nother session.
A little bit. It's not really contagious yet.
Yeah, I know.
All the chat.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, but we're not gonna go down that path just yet. But,
All right.
but we're using it to our advantage to keep our campuses safe. You've noticed we have a fencing project at Huntington Middle School. We're doing what we can at the high school. Dr. Lynn's been very active in that, making sure we have temporary fencing. It's not pretty, but it's safer than it was before, to keep potential threats outside and not allow them access to the campus. Our Board of Education, Vice President Chang has been very, very involved in making sure that we have good relationships with organizations like Chinatown Service Center. And I know Tanya has worked very hard with them as well to really refer our parents to services that their kids and maybe family members may need for mental health and wellness. We have so many approaches now to tackling this problem. It's at times overwhelming, but it's necessary. And we have a lot of very smart people working together cooperatively to make sure that every single child on our campus is as safe as they can be. And we have such incredible support from San Marino Police Department. I was at the Carver Carnival on Saturday, and there were police officers on bicycles on the campus. And I just thought, wow, I mean, that's really impactful. People can see that, and it just makes the campus a safer place. So they're driving their cars, they're on motorcycles, they're on bicycles. You know, there's a real presence of law enforcement within the city of San Marino. And I don't know very many communities where a lot of people have the chief of police's cell phone number. And so, you know, he's very service oriented, probably doesn't get a lot of sleep at night, but very, very service oriented with the community. And if you have a problem or you have a concern, you know, he's open to listening to you. And we're doing the same. So we have an incredible administrative staff, principals who make it their own personal responsibility to make sure their campuses are safe. And if they feel like it isn't, they take it on themselves. And so that's what you want, right? You want people that care so much about kids that they'll do anything to protect them. And we were talking to a security expert who says, you protect what you love. You protect what you love. And that's why the entire community has to lock arms and really work on this issue together, because we love San Marino, we love our schools, and we love our kids. And there's nothing more important than making sure that they're safe, because learning can't happen without physical safety and social emotional wellness. And I just want to applaud PfA for what they're doing to help provide education and support to our parents and community members. The gift that you are giving our community is so impactful, and we're just so grateful for your organization. Thank you.
Dr. De La Torre, I think the timing of that was about perfect. It's just about 7 o'clock. We have the room until 7:30, so feel free to continue the conversation. And so Pejin and Tanya, when you were talking about having those conversations, I know a lot of folks in this room, and these are the parents who probably don't need to come to an evening like tonight. So,
I learned so much tonight.
Right?
Like hearing about the expert teams that the district has hired, and just going to yeah, just going to the source and getting that kind of support. I mean, I've learned a lot.
And
It's great having students.
yes,
Yeah.
I loved. Please come every time. You know, your contributions were so on point, and as at our last board meeting, we're talking about formally bringing student advisors onto our board as community advisors, because your input is so critical to improving the way that we can implement our mission and that multifaceted approach. So thank you all so much for coming this evening. Congratulations again to our scholarship recipients who are still here and their families. And with that, I want to thank our panelists again, our 4 experts. So this is our final program of the school year, but if you have children continuing in the district, you know, please continue to sponsor Partnership for Awareness, because everything that we do is from the support that we have from district families. And I'm so excited. I'm determined that these scholarships are going to happen every year from now on, because I'm so excited for you, Gio. Go Bruins, you know. So thank you for your support. Congratulations again. Thank you to our panelists, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Can
Thank you.
I just take 1 second? One last thing.
Of course.
Being a good cop is not about putting bad guys in jail or making the traffic stop or anything else. It's kind of like being a good parent, too, or being a good person. The most important thing we can do with our children, with our friends, with our family, is use more of these, and then what's in between. Because there's someone who needs somebody right now. Mm-hmm. Whether we've lost people to suicide, whether we've lost people to drugs, it's some other addiction, whether we've lost them to something. You're going to see a sign. An active shooter, we know that they're going to project what they're going to do somehow. But it takes that second to kind of glance down at what they're writing. It takes that second to listen to. It takes that second. And these 2 folks, they do it every day. They sit there and they smile and they go, tell me how you're feeling. Because that's the important thing for us to do for each other. Hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? And just do that for me. Thanks.